August is Mission Month. We celebrate the fact that God, in His kindness, has linked us with people from our local area through to the other side of the world, all wanting to get that same message of what God has done for us in Jesus out to everybody who needs to hear it. To extend that same invitation that you can be a part of this. You are one with Adam. You are a human being like the rest of us who is separated from God, but you can be one with Jesus. And you get to participate in all the blessings of relationship with God when you receive that invitation. We want people to believe that this is what we were made for. It's the only way to be fully alive is to receive that life from God through Jesus. But you know what? This can be a hard message to believe. It can be hard to believe that there is a God. It can be hard to believe that there's a God who created the world, who created you, who wants relationship with you. It can be hard to believe that there is a God who is so good that even what you think is good for yourself doesn't begin to compare with what God wants for you and what God offers you in Jesus. And one of the reasons that it's hard to believe that stuff is mentioned by the Apostle John. And he mentions it as he's about to give an account of the life of Jesus. And he mentions it as he writes to people who are seeking to live for Jesus. And it's the problem of an invisible God. In both of those books that he writes, he says this: no one has ever seen God. John 1 and 1 John chapter 4. And that's a problem. It's hard to believe in someone or something that you can't see. And some of you remember the story of how that happened. Ever since the first Adam turned away from God, God has been out of reach for us. If Satan was able to cloud Adam's thinking, just think about this. If Adam, who got to see God face to face and who knew God as his creator, if Satan could even confuse his thinking about God, cause him to doubt God's goodness, cause him to think that maybe I can experience more goodness if I walk away from God, how much easier is it for Satan to cloud our thinking? People who have never seen God face to face and walked with him like Adam did. How much easier is it to distort our ideas of God and our thinking about who God is and what he must be like? And if you, like me, wish that God would just do something really spectacular to just kind of show up and show people how real he is and show how good he is, well, we're in luck because he has. But he didn't do that in the way that you or I would have done. If you know the stories of the Old Testament, you might remember some of the ways that God showed up. You might remember stories about the 10 plagues in Egypt, for example, or splitting the Red Sea so people could walk through it. You might remember the pillar of fire and of cloud, or the booming voice that came out of Mount Sinai. Or you might remember the walls of Jericho coming tumbling down. You might remember a time when Midianite hordes were ravaging the promised land and God drove them out. Or when the Assyrian army surrounded Jerusalem and God destroyed them overnight. God did some pretty powerful and amazing things showing up in the lives of people. And he did that on a national scale, on a big scale, and he did it in a personal way as well. Like when he raised a boy to life, or healed Naaman from leprosy, or gave the widow oil that didn't run out when there was a famine. So many ways that God showed up in big ways and in small ways, but all of them showing what he is like. But despite all of that, people kept turning away from him. They didn't believe that the life he offered them was actually better than the life they wanted to build for themselves. And in Romans chapter 1, the Apostle Paul makes the case that this is humanity's story. And as he continues to write in chapters 2 and 3, he makes it clear that even religious people who have God's ways and claim to follow God's ways are in exactly the same situation. We have a picture of God that isn't actually as good as who God really is. And so we all turn and try to find life in other ways, in other relationships, in other pursuits, in things that don't fit with God. We all follow this same pattern of living. And as Paul gets to the end of this discussion, he says in Romans 3:23, those famous words, "For all have sinned and fall short of the glory of God." What does that mean, fall short of the glory of God? In what we do ourselves and in what we imagine of God, it is so much less than who God really is and who we can be in him. So if God is going to fulfill his plan that we saw on the screen to have human beings in his family enjoying his glory, enjoying his goodness and becoming like him, he's got to do something about that. He's got to do something about the fact that we keep rejecting him and going our own way and messing up everything he's created. He's got to do something about the fact that we don't really see and trust in his goodness, and we don't follow his ways and fill our lives with that goodness. We fall short. So those two verses where John spoke about the fact that no one has ever really seen God, even Adam, who was right there in the garden with God, didn't really appreciate how good God is. And these verses tell us how we can finally see this good God, so much that we never want to walk away from him again. So let's look at those verses and see what they tell us about God. From John 1:18, it starts out, no one has ever seen God. Yep, that's a problem that we all have. But the one and only Son, who is himself God and is at the Father's side, he's revealed him. This is the wonderful thing that we get to celebrate as followers of Jesus. Jesus reveals the invisible God. The New Testament talks about him as the exact representation. Nothing is missing, nothing is left out. When we look at Jesus, we see the glory of God. And think about what that actually looks like in the way Jesus lived his life. Think about what that would have been like if you were one of those disciples who were called to share life with him for those 3 years or so. Think about the humility of a God who trades the highest place in heaven for the humblest place on earth. Or of a creator who allows his creation to have power over him. Think about the kindness of a God who stoops to wash the smelly feet of men who were arguing over their own ambitions. Or think about the gentleness of a man who praises a woman who's come and washed his feet with her tears while others were rebuking her for her emotionalism. Or think of the generosity of a man who provided the finest wine for a family who'd failed to provide enough for their guests. Or the compassion of a man who fed the multitudes even though he knew that in feeding them, they would just keep chasing him, wanting more of what he offered, more handouts. And consider the patience of the greatest teacher the world has ever known, but whose students just kept missing the point and messing things up. Or the indignation of one who intended for the temple to be a light for the nations, a house of prayer for all people, and yet saw it turned into a financial empire, and what he did about that. Think about the courage of a man who chooses a path that he knows leads to torture and death. And it's in thinking about his death and resurrection that we see most clearly the glory of God in Jesus. We could keep listing the ways that he lived and see those wonderful tastes of the goodness of God. But if you want to see it most clearly, you have to do what Luca led us in earlier, what Jesus asked us to do whenever we get together. It's to remember his death and resurrection. It's why Jesus asked us to remember his body and blood that was given to us through the symbols of the bread and the cup. He'd already shown his power over physical realms and spiritual realms, but he did not use that power to save himself. He did not use that power to subdue others, but he sacrificed himself to save us. That's what God is like. He's absolutely limitless in his power. He could do whatever he wants to us. That's why so many people are terrified of God. You know, what's he going to do to us given how we've treated him? But we can be absolutely at peace because Jesus has shown us what God is like. He wants to use his power to save us, not to subdue us. He wants us to receive that invitation of being part of his family. And all these glorious attributes of the invisible God, Jesus has made visible to us. And they can be summed up in just one word. That's the word that was on the screens earlier, love. John 3:16 tells us, for God loved the world in this way. All those things that we're seeing in Jesus, his gentleness, his patience, his kindness, his indignation about evil, his courage in doing whatever it would take to save us, all of those attributes come from this one reality, that God is love. And he loved the world in this way, that he gave his one and only Son, so everyone who believes in him will not perish but have eternal life. When we look at how good God is and believe that our life is actually found in him and him alone, then we won't be disappointed. We'll have life now, and as Jesus said in John 10, life abundant, real life, and we will have it for all eternity. And that leads us to the second verse that we looked at earlier from John, about how God has revealed himself. He's revealed himself perfectly in Jesus. And if you want to know what God is like, we just look at Jesus. But that still requires faith, doesn't it? Because unlike those initial disciples, we're not walking with Jesus day after day and saying, wow, God is amazing. Did you just see what Jesus did? Did you just feel the impact of how he treated us? So that's still going to take some faith. But yet God has also revealed himself in this, in giving his disciples the Great Commission to spread the news about him all over the world and to make followers of Jesus wherever they went. He basically said to them, hey, what I've done with you, you keep doing for others. You keep declaring what I have declared. You keep living in the way that I have lived. 1 John says it like this: no one has ever seen God, but if we love one another, God remains in us and his love is made complete in us. Just as love propelled Jesus into our world and revealed itself in all those incredible ways, it's love that is meant to propel us into community with each other and the people God places around us. And it's meant to show itself in ways just like it showed itself in Jesus. And this is incredible. If you think about it, the invisible God, the glory of the eternal, the immortal, invisible God is made visible in us if we love one another. So when I'm truly loved by somebody, I'm experiencing something of God. What is invisible is becoming visible in what's happening in that moment. And when I truly love somebody else, I'm also experiencing something of God in the giving of love as well as in the receiving of love. Because that's what the three is all about. It's giving and receiving love in perfect community. It goes both ways. Now, unlike Jesus, we won't do it perfectly. But as we learn to obey everything he's commanded, as we learn to follow his example, we'll share and declare his love even more completely. At Kingsley, we speak about our task like that. We talk about sharing and declaring the love of God in our communities, because what we're saying is we don't just have a message of words that we want to say to people. We don't have an intellectual argument that we think will convince people to respond to God. There's a way of living that is life-giving, that testifies to the goodness of God, and that's what we want to share with people. And we want to tell people what the foundation for that way of living is. We want to share it and declare it. We want to speak about Jesus and we want to live like Jesus. And so to live like Jesus is to live a life of love. It's to invite people into perfect community that we were created to enjoy. And I love the way the Apostle Peter describes how we do this. In 1 Peter chapter 2, it says this: but you are a chosen race, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, a people for his possession. And this is such an important idea that it's said in 4 different ways. But they're all saying the same basic thing. That once, as it goes on to say a little bit later in verse 10, we weren't a cohesive group of people. We were people from different cultural backgrounds, different ages, different genders, different socioeconomic status. You know, there's nothing that kind of made us one in the way that God created humanity to be one with him. But God has made us one in Jesus. And that's now our identity. We have been chosen by God and given this opportunity to represent God to the world. We're a holy nation, a people for God's own possession. And we have a purpose, that we might proclaim the praises of the one who called us out of darkness into this incredible light. We know what it's like to seek life our own way. We've been thinking about that already today. But in Jesus, we see what life really is. We see how good God is, and we get to receive the invitation of being in a relationship with him. We've been brought from darkness into light, and now we get to proclaim that to the people around us. God has loved us. He has reconciled us to himself. He's called us from darkness so we can walk in his light, and his light is good. So we'll speak about him. And the word translated praises literally means excellencies. We'll proclaim the excellencies of God. So the stuff that I was talking about with Jesus earlier, all of those things that we see in his life, we'll just mention those to each other. We'll remind ourselves of how amazing God is because of what we've seen in Jesus. And we'll learn to see that in each other as we live as the people who are finding our life in him. So there's a couple of ways that I want to suggest that we can actually do what this passage talks about and live as people who proclaim the excellencies of God, who proclaim his praises. And there's two simple phrases that can be a huge blessing to you to help you to keep finding your life in the goodness of God instead of seeking it in the stuff of this world. And it can be a huge blessing for you to help other people receive that invitation that we thought about earlier, to recognize that by nature we're one with Adam. That's just how life is. But we can be one with Jesus. And will we receive that invitation? We can offer that profoundly in the way that we speak about Jesus and in the way that we speak about each other. The first phrase is this: that's what I love about Jesus. When was the last time you said that? How often do you reckon you could say that if your head was just in that space? I reckon you could do it 100 times a day. Easy. Agree with me? You walk out of your door, let's just leave everything that happens before that, but you walk out of your door and you get rained on, and you remember that God is so kind. Even to people who have rejected his goodness, he keeps providing for us everything we need. Jesus made a world that is perfect for providing our needs. He sends rain on the just and the unjust, as the Bible says. That's what I love about Jesus. He doesn't just give his blessings to people who deserve it. He just blesses everybody. He sends rain to everybody. Or you look at that wonderful sunset. I often talk about sunrises and sunsets because I just think they're amazing. And you're reminded of the creativity of God. He didn't just make a functional world. He made a beautiful world, a world for us to enjoy. That's what I love about Jesus. Well, I was driving home and the traffic was just miserable. And you all know I have a tendency to see the dark side, right? Just to the cup half empty kind of thing. Oh, man, I'm never going to get out of here. You go up to that T-junction, it's like, oh. And then you notice the people who, they could have gone, but they didn't. It's like, oh, come on, I'm never going to get home. So I was in that situation the other day. And this lady who'd seen me waiting and waiting and waiting, and she had right of way to turn right across me, she just waved me through. And I had this little opportunity and I took it and I was so thankful. That's what I love about Jesus. It was a lady, it wasn't Jesus. But how did she have that impulse to be kind and to give up her own opportunity to go so that this guy who's looking like he's steaming up the inside of his car can go? That impulse was put into her by her creator, Jesus. Anything good we experience in life comes from above, the scriptures tell us. That's what I love about Jesus, because just like that lady was kind and patient, Jesus is kind and patient. And whenever people do that, they're reminding us of who created them. That's what I love about Jesus. But what do you do with the people who are not kind and patient? The people who, for example, abuse their position of power and make your life miserable? Well, that's what I love about Jesus, because he doesn't do that kind of thing. He never abuses his power. So whether our experiences of life are positive because people are living out of what he put in, or whether they're negative because people are leaving out the things that he put in us and choosing to live a different way instead, they can all point us to Jesus. They can all remind us of what we love about Jesus. You can live like that. You can live reminding yourself of the goodness of Jesus every moment of every day. But even better than that, you can do what 1 Peter was encouraging us to do and actually proclaim that. Isn't God good? Isn't Jesus amazing? And you can build the faith, like Hebrews says, hey, get together regularly. Don't be hardened by sin's deceitfulness. Remind each other of how good Jesus is. Share that stuff with each other. And share it with people who don't yet know about it. Extend that invitation that they could know this good God as well. It doesn't have to be forced. You can be talking about stuff that sucks. You can be talking about stuff that's awesome. And you still have an opportunity to say, you know what, that's what I love about Jesus. Because he is like that, or he's not like that, but in so much more profound ways. And people might go, oh, God, give us a break, you Mike with his Jesus stuff again. But you know what? Regardless of how they treat us in that moment, 1 Peter goes on to say, one day they will glorify God because of you. Because you were there pointing them to how good God is. And one day they'll see with their own eyes and say, yeah, it really is good. But we hope that they won't wait until he comes back to this earth. We hope they'll receive it before then, because we want everyone to live a life knowing how good Jesus is. But the second phrase that kind of ties into that, and it might kind of sound a bit self-promoting, but it's this one. That's what I love about my church. And are we really as good as Jesus? Of course we're not. But we're all on the journey of learning to live out of Jesus' goodness. And we can celebrate the fact that we are on that journey together. And I love seeing the goodness of Jesus in the people that he has put around me to encourage me and for me to encourage and serve as well. And we have that in so many ways. And every week I could get up here and tell you different stories about that. So Wednesday night, as Ian mentioned, that some of us got together and we were thinking about how do we connect with people of different cultures? How do we understand different viewpoints so that we can have relationships that point people to Jesus? And it was just really cool sitting in that group and different people talking about why they'd come along to Changing Lanes, Crossing Cultures. And essentially it all came down to this. I love the people that God's put around me who I don't necessarily understand their viewpoint or some of their habits of living, but I want to understand and I want to love them really well. It was just really encouraging to be in a group that loves the people around them and wants to learn how to love them better. I love that about my church, that we have people who do that. I love the way that I see people just serving each other spontaneously. I love the way we see people committing to give to our partners around the world, saying this matters, I want to be a part of this. People express love and kindness and patience and faithfulness and steadfastness and forgiveness and humility all the time in the life of our church. Friday night, we had a group of young adults here. There's nothing else for young adults to do on a Friday night. Wrong, I'm being sarcastic. Of course there's other things for young adults to do on a Friday night. But they came here because they wanted to help each other get ready for the following Friday night where they're going to be telling our young people about Jesus. I think that's amazing. I love the fact that I get to do life with people in a church family. I love my church. And if we stop and think about it and refuse to be the kind of people who always find fault in other people and we never measure up, and actually start saying, well, where do I see the goodness of Jesus? How can I proclaim the excellencies of God because I saw it in one of my church family members? And boy, it made a difference. Doesn't that give you then something to invite other people into? Are we perfect? No. Don't come expecting us to be perfect. We'll let you down pretty quickly. But are we trying to share and declare the love of God in our communities? Are we trying to become more like Jesus? Yeah, we are. And we're doing our best to help each other. And I think that's amazing. I love that about my local church. And I reckon that those two sentences, if you can build them into your own thinking, they will help you to live out of the goodness of Jesus and to not go your own way and turn away from the plan that he has for your life, his good, life-giving plan. And I reckon if you learn to speak those sentences to the people around you, it could really help other people to do the same. So I want to finish off our time together with what we call My One Thing. And for those who have been here in recent times, you know that we get to the end of our time together and we trust that God is not silent, that he's saying something to each of us if we're willing to listen. And they'll probably be quite different things. And they might be quite different from what I think that you ought to go away having heard God speak about. And that's actually okay because he's God and I'm not. But if we tune in just for a moment, what's God been saying to you as we think about this wonderful opportunity we have to make the invisible God visible? To see him through Jesus and through our church family, whether it's our local church family here or the partners he's given us right around the world. So I want to just give you a couple of minutes to think about how those sentences might play out in your life. If I was to have a coffee with you later and say, hey, what do you love about Jesus? What would your answer be in this moment? What's most standing out for you? What do you love about your local church? Could you say something right off the top of your head? Or would you have to kind of go, how are you seeing what you love about Jesus and what you love about your church this week? And what might God be calling you to do as a result of thinking about that today? I'm going to pray. I'm going to ask God to speak to each of us about that. Father in heaven, I thank you that you have revealed yourself to us. Thank you that you reveal yourself to us in Jesus. There's nothing left out when we look at Jesus, the way he lived his life and the way he died and rose again for us. Thanks for showing yourself to us so clearly through Jesus. Thank you that we can read about him in your word. But thank you that you also have made him visible in our daily experience of life when we love each other with the love that you have for us in Jesus. Whenever we see love in this world, that's an echo of you. You put it in humanity at the very beginning. And so even those who have walked away from you still have that love of God to share, whether we know the source or we don't. But thank you that for those of us who have seen Jesus, who have received the invitation to have a relationship with you through Jesus, that you're helping us to grow in that love. Thanks that we can confess when we fall short of it, that we can own up to that, to you and to each other. Know that we're forgiven and given a fresh start. Help us to grow in your love, I pray. God, in the quietness of this moment, would you help each of us to be aware of something that we can say right now, in this moment, that we love about Jesus? Lord, if it's a struggle to think of something right now, would you provoke in us a curiosity to wonder why it is that so many people have found something that they love about Jesus? Would you give us the courage for the kind of conversations that reveal that? God, in this moment, would you help us to see something that we love about our church? Thank you that you don't expect us to be perfect. Thank you that we don't need to kind of be looking for things to criticise in each other. We can actually be looking to encourage each other and spur each other on and enjoy the things that you are producing in us. Help us to speak in ways that affirm and build that up and encourage it and cause it to flourish. As we think about Mission Month, you've called us all to share your excellencies wherever you send us. Thank you for our partners right around the world. Thank you that we get to think over the next few weeks about how we support them. But God, may we support them well because we're the same kind of people. We're people proclaiming the praises of the one who's called us out of darkness into his incredible light. Light that we see when we think of Jesus and when we treat each other the way that Jesus does. Amen. Incredible privilege, isn't it, to be children of God. We're going to stand and sing our closing song together. I'm going to invite the team to come and lead us as we celebrate the wonderful truth of what we receive through Jesus.
Please stand.
My mind to Calvary, where Jesus bled and died for me. I see his wounds, his hands, his feet. I stand on that cursed tree.
Love about my church family. I can come and people have prepared to help me lift my voice and my heart to God. Keep it up. Let's talk to each other today. What do we love about Jesus? What do we love about our church family? There's so much to celebrate. Thank you that you are part of the answer to those questions for me. You're part of what finishes that sentence. Really appreciate doing life with you. God bless. Hope to have a cuppa and a chat out there, in here, wherever you find yourself. God bless.